Over 2,000 Palo Alto firewalls were hacked, exploiting patched zero-day vulnerabilities. Hackers breached U.S. firms using Wi-Fi in a novel nearest neighbor attack. Meta removes over 2 million accounts linked to pig butchering scams. And Google's new free cybersecurity certificate prepares students for jobs in just 6 months. This is Cybersecurity Today. I'm your host, Jim Love. Hackers have exploited two recently patched zero-day vulnerabilities to compromise over 2,000 Palo Alto network firewalls, according to reports from Shadow Server and Palo Alto Networks. The first vulnerability, CVE 2024-0012, allows attackers to bypass authentication in the PAN-OS management web interface, granting administrative access. The second, CVE 2024-9474, is a privilege escalation flaw that enables attackers to execute commands with root privileges. Palo Alto Networks disclosed the potential for remote code execution linked to these flaws earlier this month. A coordinated attack chaining these vulnerabilities has been observed, with attackers dropping malware and running unauthorized commands on compromised devices. According to Palo Alto Networks, many of the attacks originated from IP addresses associated with anonymous VPN services. The company's Unit 42 team believes with high confidence that a functional exploit chain is publicly available, potentially enabling further attacks. Earlier this year, the company had also issued a patch for another maximum severity and actively exploited PAN-OS firewall vulnerability, CVE 2024-3400, that impacted over 82,000 devices. Palo Alto Networks advises customers to secure firewall management interfaces by restricting access to trusted internal IP addresses, aligning with its best practice deployment guidelines. Risk of these issues are greatly reduced if you secure access to the management web interface by restricting access to only trusted internal IP addresses, was what the company said in their post. While Palo Alto Networks estimates a very small number of devices are affected, Shadow Server has tracked over 2,700 vulnerable firewalls, with approximately 2,000 confirmed as compromised. The U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, has added these vulnerabilities to its known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, requiring federal agencies to patch their firewalls by December 9th. Russian state-sponsored hackers known as Apt28 or Fancy Bear pulled off a highly creative cyber attack exploiting Wi-Fi networks from thousands of miles away. This new tactic, dubbed the nearest neighbor attack, combined cunning strategy with technical precision to breach a U.S. firm involved in Ukraine-related work. Here's how it unfolded. Using a technique called password spraying, they gained access to credentials to a target company's Wi-Fi network. But there was a catch. While multi-factor authentication blocked them from using those credentials over the internet, the target's Wi-Fi didn't require MFA for access. And thousands of miles away, this could have been a dead end. But the attackers got innovative. They found a nearby company within Wi-Fi range of the ultimate target, hacked into their network, and found a device that had both wired and wireless connections. This device became their bridge. The hackers used RDP to control that nearby device, and it logged into the target's Wi-Fi. Once inside the target's network, the hackers were able to maintain a low profile by relying on native Windows tools, and they were able to successfully exfiltrate data they were looking for, in this case, information about projects related to Ukraine. According to cybersecurity firm Volexity, which uncovered the breach, Apt28 also exploited a Windows print spooler vulnerability, CVE 2022-38028, to escalate privileges and run their payloads. This vulnerability was identified in April 2024 in a Microsoft report which helped connect the dots to the Russian threat group. What makes this attack remarkable is its ingenuity. By chaining together multiple compromises and leveraging devices within Wi-Fi range, the hackers circumvented MFA without physical proximity to the target. This tactic not only highlights vulnerabilities in corporate Wi-Fi networks, but it also challenges assumptions about how far attackers will go to gain closed access. The lesson? Wi-Fi networks need the same level of protection as internet-facing systems. MFA, device restrictions, and continuous monitoring are essential to closing gaps, but sophisticated attackers will inevitably exploit them. On our weekend show, David Shipley pointed out that although a lot of our attention goes deservedly to things like ransomware and other technical compromises, fraud is still one of the biggest issues for individuals and companies. And an indication of how big that problem is, Meta removed more than 2 million accounts tied to pig butchering and other scams from its platforms this year, targeting operations that exploit vulnerable users with deceptive schemes. Many of these accounts originate from Southeast Asian countries, including Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and the Philippines, as well as from the United Arab Emirates. These scams often stem from criminal hubs that lure job seekers with fake job offers, and once they're recruited, individuals are coerced into working as online scammers, often under the threat of physical abuse. The term pig butchering refers to financial investment scams that involve prolonged deception where victims are manipulated into depositing money into fraudulent platforms promising fake returns. The FBI's 2023 Internet Crime Report highlights the scale of the problem, noting a 38% rise in investment fraud losses, reaching $4.5 billion in 2023. These scams use tactics like spray and pray, where scammers send generic messages to a large number of users in hopes of finding victims. Those who respond are drawn into a web of deceit involving fake investment platforms and falsified returns, and withdrawals, of course, are nearly impossible. Meta advises users to stay vigilant, use two-factor authentication, selfie verification to secure stolen accounts, and of course, treating unsolicited communications with caution. And while many of these companies rob individuals and not companies, we need to remember that any employee who's compromised and in financial distress due to a fraud is an issue that affects us corporately as well. And of course, some of these frauds directly attack companies. And finally, for those who want to expand their skill sets but don't have extra money or want a risk-free way of seeing if they're suitable, Google has introduced a free cybersecurity professional certificate. It's designed to prepare students for entry-level roles in cybersecurity, with or without a degree. It's offered through Coursera, and the program features 8 courses that can be completed in 6 months. The certificate program teaches key skills, including identifying and mitigating cyber risks, using security information and event management (SIEM) tools, and protecting networks and data. Students also gain hands-on experience with Python, Linux, and SQL. A new addition to the program includes 6 videos on applying artificial intelligence in cybersecurity, covering topics such as detecting vulnerabilities and prioritizing alerts. Students can take the course for free, but if they want a certificate, they can get the course for $49 a month after a 7-day free trial. At an estimated completion time of 6 months, that's going to be about $300 US to complete the course. Upon earning the credentials, graduates can add it to their LinkedIn profiles and resumes, and U.S.-based students can gain access to a network of over 150 employers, including American Express, Walmart, and Google, committed to considering certificate holders for open positions. According to Coursera, the certificate equips students for roles like cybersecurity analyst and security operations center or SOC analyst. There's a link in the show notes to the free course and to the Coursera program, which charges a fee, and a link to Open Culture, which is where I found this initially, and where, if you look, you can find a number of other free courses on security, computing, and even AI. And that's our show for today. You can find links to reports and other details on our show notes at technewsday.com. We welcome your comments, tips, and the occasional bit of constructive criticism at editorial@technewsday.ca. I'm your host, Jim Love. Thanks for listening.